Keys, check. Phone, check. And masks, check. Ever since the pandemic began, face masks have become a must-have item for stepping outside safely. But in the hands of a San Francisco designer, masks are fashion statements and a form of expression. Lance Moore has been creating some breathtaking face masks for celebrities. Most recently, none other than Lady Gaga has been wearing some of his creations. Lance, you're essentially turning what's now essential into some incredible artwork. Thank you so much for joining me today. Had you been doing this type of thing prior to the pandemic, or did the whole mask thing come along with the pandemic for you?
No, I was lucky enough to be somewhat set up when everything happened. I've been making masks in a fashion sense sort of way since about 2016. I got started with my friend Emily Payne, who was on Project Runway, and she got invited to show in New York Fashion Week, and we had an idea for our concept. Her clothing is kind of gender neutral, and so she wanted something that was going to obscure the models' faces and still be kind of fashionable. So before we called them COVID masks, we used to call the kind of mask we're all wearing now dusters. It was what people would wear to, say, Burning Man or festivals. And so we created a whole bunch of really crazy duster masks for her show, and they were a big hit. And I've been creating them ever since. So when this pandemic happened, I was kind of set up because I had a lot of fabrics and I had a lot of templates and stuff. Now, obviously, I wasn't selling these types of masks for the pandemic, but
Right.
I was making really high-end couture kind of styled COVID masks. And then I think that's how Lady Gaga's people kind of found me.
Well, I mean, and the ones that you're showing us now, obviously are, I mean, they're extraordinary how detailed they all are. And of course, those, like you mentioned, are not necessarily the ones we wear for safety, but more for fashion. What is it about masks that made you say, okay, this is something I want to hone in on and create? Because like you said, you've been doing this for almost 5 years now, 6 years now.
Well, yeah, I was always kind of a weird kid, and I grew up with a pretty strict household, so my creativity was my outlet for sure. And at an early age, I was always making costumes for myself and trying to, I don't know, live a very realistic fantasy life. So I made costumes and masks and crazy, what I guess they would call now props and things, but back then it was just like my toys. I would create swords and wings and all sorts of stuff. And as I became older, I found out that there was a market for it, and I was always the person my friends would tap when they needed something special made, whether it was for a party or for a fashion show or even for, a small independent film. They'd be like, "Hey, you're the one we know can build it and get it done in a good time and make it look good." And I like the idea of sort of three-dimensional wearable art. To me, it's fashion is a great art form in the sense that, unlike a painting or even a beautiful song, fashion only comes alive as a true art form once there's a living soul inside of it. Then you see the potential of it. A beautiful Dior dress is just a Dior dress, but when the right person's wearing it, then it becomes the dress. you know
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Obviously, I assume you were kind of geeked out when you found out that Lady Gaga and her folks were reaching out to you to try and make some stuff for her. She's always pushing boundaries. So talk to me about what that was
yeah.
like, creating something for someone like her.
Well, it's exciting always because I was a fan beforehand. So when that happened, my partner and I were at home and we were watching some television, and I got an email. And I don't usually check my enoemails when we're just relaxing, but this one said Lady Gaga in it, and I said, I think I need to check this. And sure enough, they wanted a bunch of things from me, and they had a couple of special requests. And so I hunkered down for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and just cranked out a whole bunch of stuff. And then we drove up to Los Angeles and dropped it off. And I found out about a week later what they were going to end up using things in, and it was really exciting. And her team was wonderful and gracious, and Gaga was, was just, the whole experience was wonderful. And then after that, Milla Jovovich they contacted me to create a mask for her for Vogue Arabia, and so that ended up in Vogue Arabia, which was really cool.
Wow.
And I've also done stuff for local people here in the city who are well known, like Vanessa Getty and some other ladies who lunch, and also Carmen Cass, the supermodel. She was one of the first people to buy multiples of my fashion COVID masks. She's retired now from modeling, but she bought a whole bunch of them and wore them, and it was really cool.
Now, some of the
So
ones
that
that
was
we're some of the ones that we're looking at here, can you attach like actual COVID masks to them, or are those just fashion pieces for
these ones are
outside?
pretty much fashion masks across the board. I mean, I'll tell you. So when COVID first started, there weren't a lot of people set up for making masks from home. If you remember, there was all these tutorials on how to make a mask, and it was all over the news, sort of how to make a mask quickly because there was shortage. So I had a lot of work making really fancy masks because people wanted them and they wanted something unique. Strangely now, because we're human and we're so adept at learning, getting a mask is not nearly as hard now, a year later from the pandemic, which is great because everyone has access to it. But so I've sort of pivoted away from making my fancy COVID masks as much, and I've been able to go back into making artistic masks, which is great because I feel like we're hopefully going to get to a point where this is our life again, where we can have fun and enjoy a little bit of frivolity and also the joy of wearing something. A mask right now, I think, has a very scary connotation to it.
Right.
And I'm hoping that what I do can help maybe bring some of that fun and joy back into it. Because, before COVID, when you said mask, you thought Halloween or dress up or masquerade or something fun. And now it has such an odd
Serious
phrase to it that I'm hoping that I hope that what I do will help take away some of that burn and bring back some of the fun aspect of it.
Definitely.
But that's not to say that everyone shouldn't be wearing their masks. You absolutely should.
No, definitely. I think, and like you said, it does have this very serious connotation to it, but hopefully maybe even by October. I know it feels kind of eons away and we're not really sure exactly, what our normal is going to be like come Halloween. But like you mentioned, the term mask, I hope it goes back to that kind of fun aspect.
I do too. But I also think that, it's a learning curve, and I hope that people have learned. I think the majority of people have learned is doing things for the community and doing things for your fellow person is just as important as doing it for yourself. And even if you don't feel like wearing a mask, whether it's a fancy, crazy mask or something that's saving your life, it's important that we do it for our fellow people right now, because we all need to take care of each other and be. We're not out of the woods yet. Thank goodness we're getting closer, and that's great. And I'm glad that people are starting to feel a little bit more peace of mind. But it's not a place to rest on our laurels yet. But I hope that by doing this sort of reminds people that masks don't have to be scary, that they can be fun. We're just in a weird time right now.
Definitely. Lance, you're based here in San Francisco. How can people contact you if once it is time to be able to, wear these kinds of masks for a party or whatever it may be? How can people contact you?
Well, so my full name is Lance Victor Moore. That's my brand. And best way to contact me is either through my website, which is lancevictormoore.com, or to my Instagram, which is really the best place because you can see I post pictures all the time and videos and new masks. And that's lance.v.moore at Gmail. At Instagram.
The Instagram
one.
Okay, great. Well, Lance, thank you so much for joining us and showing us all of the beautiful designs and creations that you've made.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's very, very impressive, and I'm really glad for you that you've been able to connect with some big names who have recognized your talents. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope that you have a great day, and make sure to wear your mask.
Will do. Thanks, Lance.